Hi, I'm Todd Henderson. Today we're going to install the GatorTrax MX Electric on this 2009 body style Ram pickup. Let's go ahead and get started. Now this is just a shipping bracket, so I'm going to take a Phillips head screwdriver and unscrew that bracket. That just holds the blanket in place in transit. Once I get that out, I can discard the bracket and the screw. Next, I'm going to go ahead and remove the spiral that holds this in place. This is also just for shipping. Discard that. Do everything just like that on the opposite side as well. So we're going to go ahead and find our driver's side rail. Now, on the Ram, it's going to be wider at the front end, and you're also going to have a hole on the top of the rail. That goes up to the front where the cover is, and what we're going to want to do, if you rotate this around, you can see a channel. That's where the blank of the cover runs through. So we're going to run this channel up through. We're going to line this up. Now, you're also going to see a couple of holes on the rail itself. We've got this little tab that comes out with a threaded hole here, and we've got a threaded hole back here on the rail. Those two threaded holes are going to line up to these two holes in the canister. So this rail comes back behind the canister here, and this tab drops back behind the canister here. I'm going to line that up as I run the blanket of the cover into the channel on the rail. Now that we've got the holes lined up from the rail behind the holes on the canister, we're going to use the provided machine screws to go through the canister and then thread into that threaded hole in the rail itself. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to do that. It might be good for you to hold the rail straight while you're tightening it up. That way it threads in straight. You don't want to cross thread that. Get that nice and snug, and then move back to the other hole. Do the same thing with the other provided machine screw. Once you get that tightened down, you're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. All right, now I've got my canister cover. What you're going to notice about the canister cover is you got a rubber flap that's hanging off of one end. That flap is going to face towards the truck, away from the cover. You've also got a couple of threaded holes, one on each side on top of the canister cover. What I like to do, especially if you got the textured powder coat, I'll take my, my hex-shaped screw. Now this is provided in my hardware kit. I'm going to run that into that hole. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to clear the powder coat out of the way with the threads on the screw. That way I'm not having to worry about trying to line things up right, and I don't have to worry about things getting cross-threaded if I go ahead and clear the threads out now. And do that on both sides. And once you do that, we're going to go ahead and line the canister cover up to the rails. Those holes in the top of the canister cover will slide underneath the rails, and they'll line up to the holes in the rail. Once you get your canister cover lined up to the rail, you're going to go ahead and take your bolt that's provided with a hex head, and it's going to line up to those holes. Use your provided Allen wrench. Get that started in there. Then go ahead and tighten it down. And do that on both sides. Next, we recommend getting another set of hands. Help you set it up on top of the bed of the truck. We're going to drop it in place. The rubber seal needs to hang over top of your bulkhead. Pull any part of the seal that's tucked underneath. Make sure it's pulled over top of your bulkhead. All right, so while you're here, what you want to do, pull the cover all the way forward, and you're also going to want to center it side to side on the bed caps. All right, now before we set the clamps, we want to have a 1/8 inch gap in between this portion of the rail and the tailgate. So what I've got is a 1/8 inch thick spacer tool. I'm going to slide that in between the rail and the tailgate. Now I'm going to slide the rail back to the spacer tool. Do that on both sides. That will get us exactly 1/8 inch space between the rail and the tailgate. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to start for the back. I'm going to take the provided clamp, spread that apart. We're going to slide it in between these two adjustment screws. Now, we want to make sure the clamp is seated properly into the grooves on the rail. So the grooves on the clamp need to go square into the grooves on the rail, and we're going to hold that together, and we're going to hand tighten that first. Then we're going to take a 9/16 ratchet, and we're going to get it to where it just starts to bite down. Now once this is biting down, we're going to hold the rail to where it stays nice and level up against the bed cap and against the top of the tailgate. And then go ahead and finish tightening down that clamp. We don't want to over tighten it, we just want to get it nice and snug. Now going to the front clamp location, you're going to find 2 more set screws. We're going to take our front clamp, slide that all the way up to the top. And just like the last clamp, we're going to go ahead and tighten it hand tight first. And then tighten it down with a 9/16. Again, do not over tighten this, just get it nice and snug. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything is nice and squared up. Typically from the factory, the set screws are already set correctly, but we're going to double check, make sure nothing got shifted around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tape measure, I'm going to measure in between the rails at the canister cover where it actually bolts to the rails. I'm going to take a measurement there, and I'm going to move to my next clamp location back, the first set of clamps, and I'm going to make sure it's the exact same measurement, and it is. Now I'm going to move back to the rear set of clamps, measure between the rails and the back clamps as well, and I've got the same measurement. Now if I needed to adjust these set screws, suppose this rail was in too far, I needed to move it out, what I would do is I would undo this clamp and use my provided 1/4 inch Allen wrench to adjust these set screws, turn them in to pull it away from the rail, or turn them out to allow the rail to move in closer to the bed cap. Just make sure you got the exact same distance between the rail and the bed cap on this side as you do on the opposite side. Now the first thing we're going to do with our harness is we're going to remove our fuse and attach it to the battery. Then we'll run it down the firewall along the frame rail to the bed, and then we can find the hole to go up into the bed of the truck. We're going to go ahead and attach our harness to our cover and set all that out of the way. Now I can go ahead and reinstall my fuse into the harness. Now when installing the drain tubes, it's important to go ahead and first remove the plastic protective film that covers the canister. Then we're going to go ahead and find a location on the bed of the truck where we can run the drain tube out. Now I've got this location right here, so it's on the side of the ram. It's a great place to not only fit the harness through the side of the hole, but you can also run the drain tube out. Both of those fit in the same hole. Once you get that drain tube in place, we're going to take our gasket, fit it over top of the end of the drain tube cup, and then we're going to go ahead and fit it up into the canister, and you'll hear it click. You know it's installed. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. Well, that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts. We're here to help you out.